Maggie.
Welcome to my pod today. I'm taking over.
I like it. I'm your guest. Surrender. Take me.
You're my guest. You are at my mercy today, and I know you have lots to talk about. I'm very excited to have this conversation. I really wanted to have the conversation more privately first, but honestly, this is kind of cool. Like, I love getting this all out. But first, let me give you an update.
Okay.
And then we're going to shift into...
I like it because we want to start with the normal banter.
We're not going to waste too much time in the banter. But I do want to tell you, I've discovered... Well, I should say, my husband has discovered an underground culture in Louisville, and maybe it's in every city. So we're empty nesters, and we're still adjusting.
I'm like a little nervous on where this is going.
keep you on the edge of your seat about an underground culture.
Maggie and her husband have become swingers.
Yeah. No. Pineapple. Am I wearing a pineapple today? So we're empty nesters. We're still kind of getting our groove with the empty nest thing, because it's so weird when the kids go and you're suddenly like looking at each other like, okay, well, now what? So one of the things we figured out is I love to play tennis. And so I go out to play tennis a couple nights a week. And then he's left to like, what's he going to do? And he loves fine food. He loves good food. And a lot of times we have prepared meals at home that we do, but he loves to go to nice restaurants. And what he's figured out is that you sit at a bar in a really nice restaurant and you end up in interesting conversations with total strangers.
Okay. You said my husband sits at a bar at a fancy restaurant.
Underground culture, right? Now, we don't go any further than that. We keep it at the bar.
But you have these interesting conversations.
He ends up... So what happens is that a lot of these nice restaurants, what you find are tourists, first of all, okay? So they're looking for a nice restaurant to come. They're in Louisville. They're visiting Louisville, and they go to Jack Fry's, or they go to Le Relais, or they go to Ceviche, and they sit at a bar because they're alone. Or a couple might sit at the bar. And so he ends up just randomly in conversation with people and learning about these people from out of town, and they find connection. It's so interesting. But the other thing that he's found is it's the same group of people from Louisville that go to these bars and have dinner. So there's like this whole group of people that you go to any certain group of restaurants and sit at the bar, and you're going to see the same people over and over again. Like, we run into the same couples at Le Relais, and then we run into them at Jack Fry's. And
it's
then
just their favorite, and so they go a lot?
It's like their favorite restaurant. The bar is an easier experience in some ways because the server's right there.
Yeah.
And you end up in conversation with other people. When you sit at a table alone, you're not meeting other people.
Oh, no, yeah.
So the bar is like this social thing that obviously growing up, a bar is a social thing. You know, in your 20s, it's a social thing. But it's been so interesting to find this whole, like, we'll literally be at dinner at the restaurant at the bar, and we'll be like, oh, there's that so-and-so. Oh, hey, how are you? Oh, hey, how are you? Oh, it's good to see you again. And then we'll give each other recommendations. Oh, have you tried the bar at Volare? Or have you tried the bar?
So it's like the bar-going culture.
Yeah.
And these different restaurants. And
yes. And so we are loving it. So now we're like, okay, what about Hotel Bourbon? We need to go try the bar at Hotel Bourbon, or we need to try the bar at Steak and Bourbon. It is really interesting.
That is so fun. I actually really like that. I like going and sitting at the bar when we travel or things, but that is an empty nester thing, because a lot of times when I'm going out to restaurants now, if it is a normal restaurant, we have our children, and if it is a date night, you were maybe looking for a more intimate setting to spend time with each other rather than like...
Yes, socialize.
Yeah.
So anyway, I would just invite any of you empty nesters or even single people out there who like to go restauranting but don't want to sit at a table alone. The bar, man. It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
Yeah, get out, go do stuff.
Yes, it's great. He's even become like friends with the bartenders. Like, he knows the bartenders. And
I also think this is like a cultural thing that happens a lot more in bigger cities. And because I have done a lot of work travel this year and found myself in different cities, and luckily most of the places I've met up with friends in those cities, and I can see that it is more a part of their culture to go have tapas with friends, and it'd be like this like little moment in time, or to go do drinks.
Yeah.
Than it is actually here. And that's just like a cultural difference. And I actually desire that to be more of a part of our local culture than.
Let's go out for tapas. And,
Yeah. I think it's just like the walkability of the different cities. You know, it's
Yes.
just more natural to go walk down the street and get something. And Louisville's not the most walkable place. You have to live in certain areas to be
are, and certain areas aren't. But anyway, it was awesome. And I will say this, L'Oreal just added a bar.
Okay.
They just built a bar, and it's beautiful. So go check it out.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. Also, I feel like tapas or like the appetizer are often like some of the best things on the menu. So like getting to do more.
Yummy. Yes, exactly. It becomes your dinner. Okay, let's dive in. So much for you to talk about. You recently went through experience of attempting an acquisition.
I did.
And you've come away with a boatload of education.
Yeah. And I think we should maybe mention like how raw this is. So the deal I was working on fell apart less than 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So you are getting
a little bit of grief still.
Yeah, like a real time update as early as I possibly could have discussed it.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So tell us how it even came to be. How did this even start?
As everyone here knows that like I love acquisition. I like this type of entrepreneurship. And I acquired a portion of Resonate Recordings and took over as CEO exactly 2 years ago. In that, I knew that at some point that Resonate would always be a platform. Like I always wanted to have more. The original vision was to have, 5 or 6 things. And were they individual or were they all related to each other was unclear. But I needed one. I needed to start somewhere. And so we bought Resonate. I took over. We've turned it around and we're doing really well. And a few months ago, I was in my email and I got an email that was from an investment banker. And quite frankly, we had deleted 2 others from the investment banker because I get so many of these, like, can we buy you emails? I bet you all get them too. And they seem fake.
Spammy.
Yeah. And they don't necessarily have done any research about me. And most of the time they're asking to buy me, not am I interested in buying whatever company is for sale. And so somehow I was in my email, saw the email come through, and was like, what is this? Wait, podcast production company. They're not asking to buy me. They're asking, about something in my industry. And clicked through the guide, the little teaser guide that the investment banker sent. And I was like, oh, this is something I would be very interested in. This would make a lot of sense for Resonate. I should sign the NDA and at least figure out what this is about.
Yeah, unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
You weren't all lathered up. You were just like, let's unpack it a little bit.
And I was not actively looking at the time. Now, I had explicitly stated that I thought I would begin looking in January of 2026, but I felt like I needed a clean tax return for Resonate. To have, I wanted to feel like Resonate was completely ready for it. Yeah. And so it just came a little sooner, but it was a really neat opportunity, and I decided that it was time to pursue it.
Okay. Yeah. Specifically, were there things about the opportunity that we can't talk about the name of the company. Yeah. We can't really identify it. You've signed a non-disclosure, so we're trying to be really thoughtful here, which is why we're being vague, everybody. But tell us about why it felt like, for that specific company, why it felt like the right move. Were there things about the quality of the company or this deal itself that felt like, okay, yeah, this is the right move? Yeah,
there was a lot of synergy. What they were very strong in was something that I've been building in Resonate. And they had some really, really good systems and processes around some things that I feel like we could improve on. And also, they had something they had been building out that is our specialty. We are great at post-production. We are great at audio editing, and the systems and processes and software to make that scalable. And so what they were strong in and weak in really aligned with what we were strong and weak in. Strong and weak in. And so I felt like there was a lot of synergy. Also, this particular entity had been very profitable, and there was a lot for me to learn about how they got so profitable. And what I uncovered there, I had questions like immediately from the teaser and then the NDA. So after you get the teaser and you sign an NDA, you typically get something called an information memorandum. And it goes through who the company is, what they're about, a high level overview. This one was like probably 36-ish slides. So it's not like there is some weeds, there is some money, and I got to see more about the company.
You get to see some basic financials, but you can't get to the real meat of it until you get deeper in.
Correct. But I got to see a view of it that was like, they have figured something out that I haven't.
Mm-hmm. Like their expense line, like their expense load was less based on productivity,
So they're about double our size, revenue-wise, and had way more than double the number of people. And yet we're more profitable. And so I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
This math
Tell me more.
Is not mathing. Like, I need to understand. And they had built out an entire global team and an entire team of people in actually the Philippines that were paying good living wage. That was like one of the first things I did was call some people who were boots on the ground in the Philippines or had family in the Philippines. And I was like, is this a living wage? And they were like, that is a great wage for that job. That is absolutely living. But in US dollars is an extreme cost savings for the types of jobs and roles that they were performing.
You pay a lot more to pay an American to do that work.
Yes. And so they had found some efficiencies by leveraging a local staff for the parts that needed to be connected to their customers and that local people would be necessary for, and leveraging a global staff for the parts that were maybe more behind the scenes and project management related, and found this like workflow that I felt like would be really interesting and useful as Resonate began to scale. And so I just had all these things that I wanted to learn and benefit from, and felt like that company had done a very good job at, and still feel that way. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So you were intrigued.
Yes.
At this stage, you were intrigued.
So
and
intrigued.
Ready to let's keep going.
Yeah.
And then you were like, were you just getting really excited? Like this feeling of like, I really want this.
Yeah.
Or were you still a little more like, well, we'll see. We'll see if this is real.
It was a big number. This company is international. And so we're going to use US dollars for their anonymity, but also just because it's easier for this conversation.
Yeah.
But they were international. So I had a lot of questions about like, how would this even function or happen? Because I had never tried to buy anything internationally.
Yeah, it sounds completely intimidating to me. I mean, acquiring a business is hard and scary to me.
Yeah.
The idea of doing it across borders would be wow.
And it is. And like the legal part, the financial part,
the banking,
there was so much to learn. But I felt like at its core was really good. And Resonate already operates pretty internationally. We have a lot of international clients, and we have a handful of contractors that are already international, one in the country that this was located. And so their team was remote, my team was remote. So I really didn't care where the people lived and sat. And most of their customers were in the US. And so it felt like I needed to at least explore it to its end.
Yeah.
I needed to
follow the thread all the way.
Yeah. It was enticing enough and interesting enough. And so I called my other owners and had them look at it. And I was like, I really think that this is something we should try. And immediately Mark, my business partner, was like, I completely agree. This is really cool and interesting. We should definitely try. And so we called Mike. And it was actually here that it became a little more reasonable because Mike is on the board at Samtech, which is a global company. Mm-hmm. And so he connected us to some resources within Samtech so that I had a mentor in the process and connections.
Tremendous.
Huge. Talk about an international deal.
And I think that's really good advice for people to think about if you're thinking about a big project. Maybe it's not just an acquisition, but if an acquisition, you're getting ready to pursue a massive client, you're getting ready to launch a product you've never launched. How can you find those mentors who have been there, done that? How do you How do you slow down enough to go, wait a minute, I don't have to figure everything out. Someone can help guide me and help me figure that out.
It was very clear I did not know how to do this particular thing. Like I understood the basics of how this works in the US, but I was like, I have absolutely no idea how this works somewhere else. And a little bit of Googling and ChatGPT and like trying to sort it. But yes, that mentorship part was like 100% vital. And then it became really silly. Fun fact is like at this point in the time, Mark and I called Mike, who is also an owner in Resonate, and he introduced us to another Mike, who introduced us to another Mike, who introduced us to another Mike. There was at one point 6 Mikes working on this deal.
Team Mike.
And so like I figured like if we actually got it done, we were gonna have like Mike shirts. Like it was
Mike
like
squad, and you're in the Mike business.
I know
You're in the Mike business.
It was just so many Mikes. It was wild. It was wild. Everybody that did this deal was named Mike.
That is funny. Now you mentioned this is an international company,
Yeah.
so. What about culturally? Were there concerns you had about working with a team from another country and culture, or was that really not too much you had to think about?
Culturally, it was similar enough. There was definitely going to be, there's always cultural barriers from the core team. It was so global. They were across like more than 10 countries, I want to say. And they had some concentrations like in the Philippines, but they had people all over. And so there were some cultural thoughts and considerations, but they were working mostly with US clients and doing a lot of like US based things. But one of the biggest parts of this was when we got really into it and the bank said that they would finance it, it became clear that my family was going to have to move to the country, at least for a small period of time. And so a year or two to help integrate the companies, but also so that I could be like the signer on these loans. And so that I wasn't asking someone I did not know to be the director on the entity. And so at some point, once I got to know them, I knew that I could appoint someone to be the director on the entity and think about how we do this, have a global structure. But in the beginning, we were going to move.
Wow.
We were going to move.
Huge commitment.
Yeah. It was the only way to do it.
You really were feeling good. I mean, if that was something you were willing to contemplate.
Yeah. So, I mean,
you were feeling good.
I guess I skipped the part where like, so we figure out we're going to make an offer. We make an offer and that offer was accepted. And so that's when we were like starting to like really dive in.
So that's when due diligence starts. And that's when essentially, to put it crudely, they lift their skirts and you really get a sense of exactly how this company works.
Operates. Yeah. And what I did that was so different this time than it was last time, because it was international, but because I was buying it from Resonate, not me personally, we hired a firm in the country that they were in, and that firm was fantastic. And so they really managed like the due diligence, the financial, the legal, even finding the bank that ended up doing the loan or was going to do the loan. They really supported us throughout that process. And I felt much more comfortable having someone local guiding me through their way of doing things.
The jungle gym of that country and how things work.
Yeah.
And were they also helpful in helping figure out how to structure the deal, or was the deal structured in the offer?
So the deal was structured in the offer, but it was like wrong. So, and this was like a cultural or a country difference here. So in the US, we have the Small Business Administration that would do this deal every day of the week. Like this deal would have been its bread and butter. And so you would go to a bank would say, this is an SBA deal, meaning that the SBA is going to help collateralize it and protect it so that the bank isn't at much exposure.
Fully at risk.
Right. And so all day, every day, it would have been an SBA deal. We went around to our big banks that do international deals and asked them, will you do this deal from the US side? And like 10 of them tried and ended up saying no. And so eventually it became clear that we needed to do it in the country that we were buying it from.
But was there a reason? They all had the same reason? All 10 had the same reason they said no?
Yeah. It was too small for them to bother with the complexity. And so it was
should have been buying a $50 million company.
Exactly. Essentially, like had it been already 10 million, if the combined revenue of the two entities had been $10 million, everyone would have done it. but the combined revenue of the two entities was going to be about $6 million. And
not enough for them for the
yeah,
fees.
yeah, and the deal was about $4 million US dollars is what we were offering them, and so it was too small to do it in the complexity, and the SBA will not do the deal when buying an international entity. And so when the SBA got out, it became into the regular banks. So when the SBA couldn't do the deal, the regular bank would have to do it traditionally. Both of these businesses are cash-based businesses. There's not a lot of tangible hard assets, equipment, things like that.
Can't attach to much.
Yeah, and so then we were in like startup and angel and tech financing. And I would say like I have a few banks that really tried, like really did try, but ultimately it just doesn't fit in their investment profile or their risk profile. So we went to the country's banking system, and that country's banks were willing to do the deal. However, it functions differently there. And so their government-backed version was willing to back it. But instead of doing 10-year loans, it's more common for them to do 5-year loans, which immediately changes how much a bank will lend. And so that would be a lot to get into, but essentially in the US, the bank would have given us probably 80, if not 90% of what we were going to pay to the seller.
Right.
In that other country to keep the ratio, the debt service coverage ratio, in check. They would only do about 50%.
So you need a lot more cash up front.
Yeah. And so they would only do 50% of the loan. So at that point, you either need to bring way more cash up front, or the seller has to sell or finance some portion of the deal.
Okay. So at that pivot point, when you realize, all right, we can't use the U.S. system and get that flexibility, we have to go with this country system, and there's a hard number of cash we have to generate. What happened next?
Yeah. So this is ultimately where the deal fell apart. It just happened way later. We said we will pay $2.5 million of the $4 million up front. And then you need to
carry some of it,
a note. But in this country, they wanted it to be fully deferred. So we could only make interest payments on it and then something above the ratio. So once we had met the bank's covenants, once we had fulfilled what the bank was okay with, if we made more money, we could make early payments. But if we weren't making more money, we could not make early payments, which made structuring that deferred amount, that other money set aside, a little more complex, and a little more, in the seller's mind, risky. We got him to agree to a structure verbally, and so we moved forward. So that structure verbally was, in theory, he was okay with the amount that was going to be deferred, and the amount we were going to bring up front. But there was still a really large gap between what the bank was bringing and what I would need to bring in cash now, which was more than what Resonate had at the time to be able to bring and still keep us safe.
Yeah, you got to be solvent.
So I went and started raising the gap, and had successfully raised the large majority. We had what we needed to bring a down payment up front to this deal and get this deal closed. And so we went from that verbal confirmation into the legalese of the term sheet and making sure that everybody was okay with that. And I got my tail out raising the money that the gap needed to fulfill what we were going to bring up front. And everything felt like it was going really, really good. So until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were down the road.
So the seller was nervous. It was just.
I felt like the seller was on board too. I started noticing that second LOI. So the first one was the letter of intent.
Yeah.
It was accepted. when the bank changed the terms of the deal, we needed to make a new and what we called a term sheet, and get that signed. And it seemed like what we were struggling with on the term sheet was extremely solvable, and like everything was positive and going in the right direction. We were just dealing with a few terms. So we hadn't actually signed it.
Yeah. You were kind of moving things around on the deck of the boat. Like, okay, we're going to.
But the lawyers were talking and no one was angry, and everybody was seeming pretty positive about it.
Wasn't crashing into a ditch.
Yeah. And so I came to a point where I went and visited this seller in person, and looked for houses. Like I looked at 6 or 7 houses and picked one out and had a realtor and was going to make an offer. I wrote a letter. Their first step was like writing a letter to the rent, because we were going to rent, to the property owner, kind of telling him who we were. And so I explained the situation, like, hey, I'm buying a business. We'll be moving around this time frame. This is when it closes. I don't have a visa yet, but we're working on it. But we would like to rent your property. And so, I mean, we were
were that close.
Yeah.
So I want to back up one step and just say, to make sure our listeners understand, LOI, a letter of intent.
Yeah.
So when you made the initial offer, you write a letter of intent. That essentially is a simple 1 or 2 page document, sort of like, this is what I'm going to offer. Would you accept it? Based on what's on these sheets of paper, do you say yes?
Yeah.
And they say yes. And then when you went through all learning about your financing options, you had to come back with a new LOI, kind of restating it, but with different terms to make sure they said yes.
Correct.
And then, so I just wanted to kind of walk through that to make sure everyone understood it.
So when the first LOI was accepted, we entered in due diligence. And then when we secured bank financing, we had to go back and kind of negotiate the terms. This is super normal.
Right.
When
just kind of like resetting
yes.
the terms of the deal. There've been all these conversations, calls, emails, all this going back and forth. Let's rewrite it in simple terms for the second LOI.
Correct.
And that got signed. Okay.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
we never actually technically signed that, which shame on me for continuing down the path, but we had verbally agreed on the terms. And so it was just the legal part of getting it on paper. We had the first one already signed. We had the second one, the terms outlined.
And agreed on verbally.
So
what would have been different, if anything, if you had gotten a signature on that second LOI? Would anything have turned out differently?
It's technically non-binding. So like the LOIs are non-binding. They are the basis of the structure that the actual contract, the sale of the business gets written on. So you try really hard to determine the terms up front so that you are not wasting a bunch of money and time on due diligence for it to fall apart at the end.
Right.
And so that's really its function, which is why I wasn't that overly concerned that it wasn't signed yet, because we had verbally agreed.
Right. So sort of like, if you agree you're going to go to the movies with me Friday night.
Yeah.
And you say, yeah, I'm available. And I say, okay, I send you a calendar invite, and you never accept it.
I still assume you're going to be at the...
I'm like, yeah, she said she'd be there.
Yeah.
And then Friday night comes and you're like, decline.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of what happened. And so it wouldn't have been binding.
Yeah, it wouldn't have changed anything, but it may have given you a little bit of taste in the wind of like, how serious are they? If they refuse to sign it, that's an interesting...
Yeah.
That's an interesting conversation.
And like the reason why we were going back and forth, we're on the like, what someone might call the fine print. And so the going back and forth between the lawyers and how it was written can take weeks, even if it's done, because this lawyer likes it that way and that lawyer likes it that way.
Oh my God.
And so it didn't feel like we were negotiating real
terms. You're negotiating wording
and how it was functioning. And what was being caught up on one particular thing was a bank term, not our term. And so it didn't it felt very unlikely that would kill a deal, because it's not something within the control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So tell us about when things started to shift. Wasn't going to go as planned. Like you must have just been so filled with excitement looking at homes.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And then What
Yeah, oh my
happened?
God, this little house. It was this townhouse,
Oh,
and it was its backyard was like attached to the park. There was a park with a playground,
you're
and like
killing me.
you could walk to the local butcher and like all these restaurants, and it was just like very um uh
Cozy.
cozy, and like when you think, oh, I'm gonna move to Europe, like it felt like where I was moving to Europe. Does that, like, it had
Yeah.
this like little
Dreamy
idea?
quality.
Yes. And so I have this meeting. I leave that meeting. I go fly to Paris to meet our friends over at OSHA to talk about. They're a software company that does podcast SEO, and I decided to make a twofer out of this trip over seas. And so I then traveled to France, and I'm in Paris. I'm having great conversations with this partner of ours and how we're implementing their software to fit 50 of our white glove service clients. And they're figuring out how they want implementation done at scale with an agency like ours. And so we're having this like great conversation. It's so fun. I'm in Paris. I'm like doing all these things. I'm by myself now, walking to the Eiffel Tower, and I get this email, and the like notification pops up, and I just know. Like, I don't remember what the title was of it, but I just know. And so I'm like, you know what? I am not going to read this at this moment. I'm going to get myself to where I'm going, which was the Eiffel Tower, and find a bench and sit down and read this email. Like, I'm not just going to like, because I felt like I was going to need to process it. Like, something in me was like, don't open it while
on
walking.
the sidewalk and
Yeah. And so I find this like little bench overlooking the Eiffel Tower. I pull open this email, and I can tell that like this particular term and the back and forth is turning. It's going sideways. And it like the language around it was, had been super positive. And then all of a sudden, and I mean, I literally just met with this person face to face, and they didn't say anything about it. We could have talked about it in person. And I can see that this is becoming a deal breaker for them. But the particular terminology was, again, something that the bank was requiring, not me. And so it was like, I don't even know what to do about this. This is true whether it's me buying the business or it's some other person buying the business. This isn't something inside of my control.
It's baked in. It has to happen.
Yeah. And so I just felt like that feeling in the gut, like this is all of a sudden
Can't get around it.
going sideways. Maybe if we try to it feels like what is happening is a miscommunication. We are in a moment that is somebody isn't understanding or explaining something for everyone to be on the same page, and feeling like this person's investment banker and lawyers needed to take control of the situation, because their lawyers and investment bankers don't get paid if the deal doesn't go through. My representation only gets paid like at different chunks in time. They're not going to get it. It's like somebody needs to step in and take control of this situation, because this shouldn't be the reason that this deal dies. Like, I was having so much emotional turmoil over it being outside of my control. Does that?
Yes. Because especially since you spent all those weeks and months fashioning it yourself, fixing things yourself, sorting it out. I'll go figure this out. You were deep in it.
Yes.
And then to hit a wall where you're like, okay, despite all the efforts I put in to climb over all these obstacles, here's one you can't control.
Yeah, it was hard. And I even probably did something that might have been like, I don't know how it was perceived. Let's just put it that way. If someone knows my heart, they know that it was not meant to be an asshole. But if they don't know my heart, then it could have been perceived as an asshole, because I basically took the time, because it felt like I had a phone call with his representation, and his representation was like, we know, we told him. We know, we told him. We know, we told him, to me. And I'm like, because I was like, why haven't you explained, like, this is outside of my control? We know, we told him. I was like, okay, so they are not taking control of this situation. So I will give one last ditch effort of taking control. And so I took my time to explain, like, how deals work and what is within my control to change and what is not within my control to change. And explaining the ins and outs from, like, how debt service coverage ratio works. And then I gently said, I feel like your legal advisor may not do deals like this very often, because we are confused by this being the reason. So is there another reason you're not telling me about? Or do you really believe this thing? And so to easily explain what it is essentially when a house is bought, let's just use a house. Say your parents gave you $50,000 for the down payment on the house, and then you get a bank loan for the mortgage. Then you go bankrupt. The bank gets its money back first, even if you owe your parents $50,000. They don't get to take the home as collateral,
right,
and get their money back before the bank.
Bank wins.
The bank wins. No matter what it is, the bank gets their money back first. If the car is repoed, they get to repo the car, right? Like that's just how it works. And the issue on the term that is apparently part of the reason for the deal falling through was that the seller had second position in the scenario where everything goes bankrupt. Yeah. And he did not like that. He didn't feel like he had enough security on the deferred amount.
If something goes south, he wanted to get his money.
Yeah. He wanted
the bank gets their money.
Yeah. And that is a standard term that I cannot control. I said, these are the levers I can pull to make you feel less at risk. But this particular thing is not something I can control. And I even went as far as, like, showing the data. I was like, I would have to bankrupt both of these companies
to trigger that
within 2.5 years for this to matter. I would have to bankrupt both companies in 2.5 years for this to matter. And then I was like, the chances of me bankrupting them at all, because both businesses are well over $1 million in revenue. The chances of me bankrupting both of these businesses at all was less than 3%, 2.7%. I was like, you have a 97.3% chance that you get 100% of your money back. Because I was trying to help him see you were not as at much risk as you think you are. And it just didn't.
It sounds to me like he picked something immovable.
On purpose.
On purpose.
And that's what everyone's come to the conclusion of.
Yeah, because if you're selling a company and trying to navigate this idea, like walking away with 100% guarantee is almost, I mean,
a cash flow business,
it happens, but it's very rare.
You would need an all cash buyer.
Yeah, and that's hard to find. So I think it's interesting to me that I think he had other reasons.
Cold feet is what we can come up with, because it's not, to my knowledge, it's not on the market and he's looking for another seller. He's decided to hold it for another year at a minimum. And
maybe so. And that's very common. I mean, I think, when I was a business broker for a little while, I remember being coached that every deal needs a kick in the ass to get to the end. And he needed a kick in the ass and it didn't work. You know?
Yeah. And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. How did you deal with all that emotion and then kind of get back on the horse of, like, I've got a company, I got to get to work, I got to be a leader? How tell me what
I'm
that was
very much in it right now. Like, I am in the middle of the thick of it. And the adjustment.
Yeah. Grieving still.
Yeah. I mean, like, even the kids were excited. We'd gotten to the point where we told the family, because we thought we were moving, like, the day after Christmas. And we thought we were renting, like, December 1.
Oh, wow.
And so that we could work on getting the kids schooling in the other country. And so it's whiplash. I was going down this path. Then the offer was, and then I was like, oh, this is a new cool opportunity. Let's go down that path. And then it was accepted, and we just got so close towards the end that it was like, this is happening. A bank has said yes. We've gotten through credit approval where we're going forward. And
Yeah, it's like a standing at the altar. The
yeah,
music's playing, you're waiting for the bride, you're standing there.
yeah.
The door opens and she's not there.
And I still believe it's a good opportunity. If he called me tomorrow and said, I'm okay with the deal as it was now, I probably would get back on the horse.
Yeah.
Like if he calls me in a year and we can figure out a different set of like something, I'd probably be interested in it still, because I really do believe that it is a good fit within our world. And now maybe in a year, I'm got Resonate further along and don't need some of those systems and processes. Maybe the synergies won't be as sweet, but they still have a lot of ideal customers and a really good team that's already trained. And so it is a scalable growth opportunity. And so like, I'm not saying I would even walk away from it if it came back. I'm not even mad at him. I'm a little confused. And I'm a little heartbroken at how much money and time and energy I spent, because I did spend about $20,000 that I can't get.
Countless hours. I mean,
oh my God.
Countless hours.
Yeah. And I know I've learned so much, so I wouldn't take it away, but it's like, that was a $20,000 learning opportunity. Does that, you
got some kind of degree, some kind of business degree. Yeah. So give me 3 powerful lessons that you've taken from this. Maybe you're not.
I think
you're not quite there.
Yeah, no. I think powerful lessons is I had no idea how to buy a company in another country, and now I feel confident that I could.
Yeah. Now your market's open. Now you're like, oh, I can look at all of these opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. And that like it was wholly figure outable. I made some rookie mistakes, as anyone would.
You're a rookie.
Yeah.
International.
But I think I'm still a rookie, I think, because you only do it so many times. Like even as an experienced person who talks about this, like in it is different. And it was by far the biggest deal that I had ever tried to do personally or for the business. And so I feel like I have a better thought process. I have a lot of clarity coming off of it. And I think I would have assumed that I'd be hazy for what's next with Resonate, like readjusting. But in fact, what I learned, it's like, okay, well, I don't get to acquire those things, but by golly, I know now.
You can grow them.
I can do it. I saw what they did.
Save your money and build it yourself.
Right. And I can see how they did it. And now I can do it too.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I think this is maybe not a learning, but it is a reflection point, which is I fail pretty publicly because I involve a lot of people in almost everything I do. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or if I could use to be a little more protective of myself or my own pride. And obviously I am talking about it on a podcast now. So, but even in it, I had to involve a lot of people because I needed help. And so I had an enormous number of people in my life that knew that this was going on, which would not be normal to a lot of deals. But I was raising money. And so the only way to raise money is to tell people. No. And so I had to go back to a lot of people and say, I don't need your checks anymore. I had to go back to my current investors that I had bought into the idea and say that, this isn't happening. And I had to check in with a lot of friends and even tell our kids, like, no, we're not moving anymore. And to my family. And honestly, like in the business world, I think a lot of people who've been through this, it kind of rolls right off. But like, it is hard to fail in front of people that are like your family. Does that,
Yes, I talk about this some in the book I'm writing. I talk a little bit about it. It's something I read about recently in an article in the New York Times, and I can't remember the woman who should get credit for saying it, but she talks about how the path to success is cringe mountain.
It is so cringe mountain.
And so you have to climb publicly a cringe mountain and watch people go, ooh. But in reality, the people that are watching that happen, we are so like, damn, she almost did that. Look at that.
Yeah.
And she's going to do something with that, like all that knowledge, So I think that, yes, you might say, it's like someone who tries to climb Everest and fails. You wouldn't be like, what a loser. They tried to climb Everest and failed. Yeah, people die trying to do that.
Yeah.
And so hats off to you.
Thank you.
I mean, climb Cringe Mountain, girl, and go look for your next Cringe Mountain, and we are going to be cheering you on.
I have made plenty of Cringe Mountain mistakes. But to your point, though, and like into the essence of the podcast is like, if you try this and the deals fall through, things don't work out, you might fail, whether that be you started a business and it failed, or you tried to do something and it didn't work out. And like, you have to kind of get comfortable with the fact that like, to get where my biggest vision for me and my life and our family is, I'm going to have to fail publicly.
And it wasn't even a failure, because this guy was a jerk. I mean, he picked an obstacle he knew you couldn't deal with.
Yeah.
He watched you climb Cringe Mountain. He climbed with you, and then he was like,
yeah,
I don't like the color of your nails. Like, what are you going to do? You know, like, so I don't even, make sure you watch your story.
Fair, super fair. And your mental story about it. Because I don't necessarily, even though I'm using that word that the deal failed, but I don't necessarily feel like I failed. But I did have to like wrestle with the feelings of like the number of people that I needed to tell that it didn't work out. And
it's not fun to go around and be like, it didn't happen. Yeah, it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, but watch your story. It didn't happen, not because you failed.
Yeah.
It was because he failed. He failed to show up at the altar.
Yeah. And I think I was pretty angry. Like, and I'm learning how to like be allowed to be angry. Cause even now, like my like internal reaction is he's not a bad guy, or like, it's not like he's not.
He changed his mind.
He changed his mind.
Let's be honest. He changed his mind, and he probably didn't want to tell you he changed his mind, because that would be that would look stupid. So it was easier to just pick something you couldn't deal with. So hats off to you. And I think all that anger is actually going to crystallize into this incredible discernment.
Yeah.
And the next time you'll probably have more instincts for what's really going on here.
Yeah.
You'll be more careful, and you'll look for that commitment earlier. You know, it's like in a deal, you always are looking for that handshake as you go.
Yeah.
Like,
I asked him like
over and over again, like
25 times.
Tap in.
I want the next business that I buy, this person to be much older, because I kept asking, because the seller is not old. He's not much older than I am. And I just was like, are you sure you're done?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. That's how I felt too, pup. But are you sure you're done with this? Are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you're as burnt out as you're telling me you are? You know, those kinds of moments, because when you're buying a business from someone who is younger, they have the option to stay. Like everyone does, even when you're older. But most of the time there is more of a driving factor towards retirement, when this was like, there wasn't.
Yeah. Some people are compelled, like, please take this.
Yeah.
Please take this. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And I hope you get healed up real quick and climb back up on Cringe Mountain, but build the thing that you want.
I am. I'm so excited for Resonate next year. Honestly, that clarity is there, and what we're going to do. And I'm back, waist deep in it. And
in a year, you're going to send that guy a thank you note.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be like, actually, this is way better.
Yeah. Everyone's told me that their best deals were ones that didn't happen, because something right after that would come along.
Yes.
And it's just like,
it's putting your mind in that mindset of like, all right, I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to build the thing.
Yeah. And now I really know what I want and don't want. So thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to interview me. I really wanted our audience to hear it.
Welcome to my pod. I'm glad you made time. Great job.
Thanks.
Resonate.